Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today our guest is Philipp, the CEO of Custify. Hello.
Hello, Christian. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you again. So we met at How to Web and decided to do a podcast. So I'm excited to learn more about Custify. Please tell us what is Custify.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Custify is a platform to handle everything post-sales for SaaS companies to avoid churn, and it's primarily the home for a customer success team. So any customer success manager who takes care of customers is a potential user of Custify, and it helps them to understand which customers to reach out so they can reach out at the right time with the right message to the right customer. And don't have to guesswork. What is the status of this customer? Is he still in the onboarding? Is the renewal coming up? Are they utilizing the product enough? And to do so, we integrate typically in the entire environment. That means CRM, support ticketing tool, payment gateway. The own product is also an essential one. And then the data comes all together in one place. Because if you have to go in 6 different platforms to understand what's up with a customer, that takes you like half an hour to get all the data. And that half an hour is much better spent if to actually talk to a customer directly.
Okay. So what do you say is the biggest problem that you solve?
The biggest problem is, well, initially, of course, a customer success team exists because of a subscription-based business. Not just
Yeah.
that, but there it's extremely important. And the reason for that is that if you don't manage to deliver value with your product quickly, churn is typically
Yes.
what happens. So the problem that we solve is that. So churn and upsell, cross-sell opportunities that are missed otherwise is the second biggest topic. Now, that's why customer success teams in the first place, I would say, typically are established in SaaS companies. And now, the problem that we solve, as mentioned before, is that if you just start off with customer success, you typically have already existing processes. So you have a product, you have a sign-up flow, you have a sales team eventually that works in a CRM, you have a Stripe or something like that that manages your subscriptions. Then you might have even a support team from day one typically, because without a support team it's tough. That means you typically have a support ticketing system. And now as a
Hmm.
customer success manager, in order to work with my customers, I need to understand all of this information. And then the problem that we solve for that is that they have this all in one place. They get this visibility, this quick view. And on top of that, if you think about tasks for customer success manager, there are also many repetitive things that you can solve with automations in Custify. That means sending onboarding emails, for example, onboarding
Mm.
sequences of emails, or a customer is up for renewal and you do a check-in with them, like those kind of things. So everything that
I
is
see.
repetitive, the processes, you can build them once, and then Custify basically manages to take care of that. And yeah, this is kind of the pain that we solve.
I now understand better your solution, and it's easier for customer success teams to use Custify instead of building their own product in house, right?
Most of the teams, to be honest, use spreadsheets in the beginning. So, and this is also doable to some extent. You can even automate certain things, but you reach at certain point, you reach a limit also with a spreadsheet because it's just not scaling anymore. That's like you would start with sales in the beginning. You might start either with a very, very simple CRM, or you don't have even any CRM and you just do it in your emails. And tag them accordingly. And yeah, that works for the first 20 customer, no problem. But if you have a sales team of 2 or 3, you probably want to have a robust CRM where you have forecasting, where you have reporting on close rates, where you have reporting on potentially closed revenue in the future, etc. And that's exactly comparable in our case. So yeah, you can either build it yourself, which is extremely complicated, or you probably use spreadsheets as a CS team in the beginning.
I understand. Understand.
So,
And
so spreadsheets is also our biggest competitor. So
yeah,
if you ask, like, this is typically the doing nothing and let's just not spend any money and try to do it
yes,
with the
yes.
spreadsheet is kind of the biggest competitor to the product.
I understand. Understand. And what do you think are the top three features of your product that your customers love?
So the primary one that they are typically looking for is we call it health scores. And health scores basically is a way to score a customer in the sense of we say how healthy they are. You can also just name them KPIs, and KPIs are things like tied around the value that you provide to a customer. So first of all, typically the first indicator is, are there any activities at all? So are they logging into your backend? Are they or in your product? Are they doing something? But that's not the reason why they buy the product. So logins is not a great health score. It's a good indicator that something is happening. But then what happens after? So those health scores are typically tied around product functionalities. And if you think about an easy example, if you have a task management system and there are a lot of overdue tasks, that's not good, because then you know that they're actually not working on the task. So that's not something you want. Or if you have a task management system, there are never or very rarely new tasks created, then you just simply know they are not using that and they are using whatever else. So it's around, these health scores are basically KPIs that are tied around the value that you provide to a customer. So this is one of the biggest things. The second biggest is, I would say, the automation that I talked to you about, because you have a lot of processes typically in customer success, onboarding, renewal, upsell, cross-sell opportunities, check-ins with customers, QBRs. Proactiveness is a big thing. So you want to be not waiting for the customer to churn or to ask questions that, hey, I haven't even set up the product. You know that they haven't set up the product, so you proactively reach
Okay.
out and offer your help. So these playbooks to these automations that run there is the second one. Um, and the third one is probably also around similar things, but a bit more into the stage of a customer. So we call that life cycles, and a life cycle is a stage of a life cycle is onboarding, adoption, renewal, to name like 3 examples. And yeah, that depends a little bit on the SaaS or on the customer itself that we work with. Some have 10 different life cycles, some have 3. But knowing where is this customer in the journey with you is also essential. Aside from all the reporting that you then can do, which is, I guess, also one of the important things. But those 3, I would say, is the main functionalities that the CS team is typically looking for.
Seems really, really interesting. And what is the pricing for Custify?
So our current pricing, subject to be changed, of course, depends when you are listening to this podcast, but the current pricing starts at $8.99 per month. That's kind of our base package. And yeah, this includes already a lot of the services that come on top. We call those concierge services in the beginning of the onboarding, helping to establish the CS strategy, helping to understand, yeah, what would be your health score. So if you are in a CS team and you wonder, okay, what would be all my health scores? You probably have an idea why people pay you money and what's the pain your product solves. And our team helps you in that stage also to cross-check that with industry best practices or case studies or these things. And that's basically included in our package.
And why don't you make your pricing public at first, so customers have to get a code? What's the
Yes,
strategy, or
well,
why
it's
do you
not.
do that?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a strategy, but this is the simple answer to the question, what's the pricing? But sometimes there's, for example, large teams, and then there are
Okay.
possible discounts, or there are specific requirements on services. So they would, for example, want a specific integration into their own product as professional services on top of the product. And there's many other custom use cases. So you could put that starting plan price there. But then it might rather confuse people. So it's better to understand that in what we do typically is a discovery call. So when someone is interested, we hop on a call, or the sales team hops on a call, understands the challenges, understands the scope, understands what integrations would be needed, how far is the team ahead, how big is the team, how many customers do they want to manage, what are the things they need help with? Are the standard, it's a standard concierge onboarding enough, or do they require service hours? And based on this, we get you a custom quote. And yeah, that's the reason why it's not there.
I understand. And can you share with us some of your integrations?
Yes, absolutely. So we have, I think now 25 or more, 26 maybe even native integrations that we wrote. And the key systems are 4: CRM, support ticketing system, payment gateway, and communication. So those 4 categories, I would say, is the most important ones, besides data warehouses like Segment or something where you might already have tracking data. And CRM, we have cover all the major CRMs from Salesforce to HubSpot and Pipedrive, etc. Ticketing systems, then it's like Intercom, Zendesk, or those systems that you use in support, in reactive support. Then payment gateways, it's typically like Chargebeat, Recurly, Stripe, those kind of platforms. And for communications, it's mainly Slack, Teams, as in that's what you use as a team, so you want to send yourself notifications and stuff. And Outlook, Gmail, depending on which vendor you prefer, Microsoft or Google. And those are the major ones, I would say, that we have. There are others like if you already have an NPS tool, for example, or something like this. But those 4 categories are the major categories.
Super. And can you share with us some of your successful use cases? So SaaS companies that used the Custify and were happy with the solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have established just recently an entire section for that on our website. So feel free to head over to custify.com. On the top, you will see our customers, and there are quite a lot of case studies and use cases. Known names to the audience might be, for example, ChartMogul or GuideCX or UserPilot or Oracle. Those are probably logos you heard of. However, you would be surprised how many SaaS companies there are that if you are not in this specific domain, you will never hear of, because you're not. It's not a tool, let's say, for the majority of us. It's taking care of a specific use case. So if you are a plumber company, for example, there is SaaS companies for it. We have in our customer base also SaaS companies specifically for churches. Right, so there's a SaaS company only for churches, and those. If you are not a church, you will probably not search for this company, and you will never know this company. But yeah, there are really a lot of companies in our portfolio for specific niches, such as churches or pet food stores, and the list is very long. Shop floor management, etc. But and when you ask like, what do these guys achieve? Now, the typical goal, of course, is to to reduce the churn, right? And typically that can be done by at least like 30%, so a reduction in churn, and the effectiveness of the team. As we talked about before, the challenge is that this data is in multiple systems, and I mean, our ROI calculation, if you, for example, that's also part of why the pricing is not necessarily there, because sometimes people need to build a business case. Now, how do you build a business case, and how do you prove that the value is there? Well, think about that. So the effectiveness of the team, imagine you have 3 CSMs. Okay, so they all have a salary of X, and they all spend, say, 30% of their time in those systems searching for that data. Assuming they can get those health scores somewhere in a database, which very often actually is not the case, because they don't have this visibility in the product, but assuming they can, then they would still spend a lot of time just crunches for this data instead of talking to customers. Now, if you take this, let's say 30%, and multiply that with their salary, that's exactly the wasted time that you have there as in the team. Then the bigger your team gets, the more easy the more of a no-brainer, let's say, it becomes to use a tool like Custify, because it's simply a factor of 10 or 20x on the return of investment, or even more. So that's I guess the second thing, this effectiveness in the team and the ability to talk to the right customer at the right time.
Okay, and I saw that you do public comparisons with your competitors, so alternatives, and I was curious to know, why do you do that? Because a lot of companies may be afraid to do that.
No, I would highly recommend to do it. And this is, I mean, to be honest, of course, some of the use cases are better off with one of the other products. There might be niche use cases that you have, and Custify is not a good fit for you, and that's fair. However, imagine you go on a demo from one of those that you mentioned from the competitors, and you realize, well, this is either very expensive, which is extremely likely actually in this market, or it doesn't fit my use case very well. So what do? You go to Google and you say, for example, a competitor alternative, and you look for that. So we want to make sure that these people find us, and that's the primary reason those pages are there.
And if you'd be the number one the market leader, would you still do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, nice, nice. When did you start the company?
We started in 2018, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. So it's year 5 now, right? 17, 18?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
And why did you start Custify? What was the idea behind it?
Yeah, so in my former role, I was actually in touch with quite some SaaS companies, so other leadership teams of SaaS companies to be precise.
Okay.
Now, I have to say that this was 7 years ago or 8 years ago, so it's probably situations improved a bit. But back then, the observation was that these teams have a lot of focus on customer acquisition and they know everything around customer acquisition. That means they have a specific team for PPC, paid marketing acquisitions. They have a specific team for website conversions. They have all every kind of analysis on where the traffic comes from and all that stuff. They spend money on marketing. They spend money on sponsoring conferences. They spend money on outreach to customers, cold outreach, cold calling, cold emailing, etc. So this is all very well laid out, and you can put it in spreadsheets, and you can make funnel analytics and all that stuff. And the leadership team always knew exactly the cost per customer acquisition on that channel, on that channel, and this is the team and so forth. And then when you ask the question, so what do you do or what happens after a customer signed up? Yeah, we sent them some newsletters, as a kind of a,
Okay.
let's pray that everything works fine. And again, it was a while ago, so the customer success as an industry is not so niche or so new anymore, but this was still a different time. And this made me think like, but in a SaaS environment, there's statistics. You can pick any of those, but for sure you will realize that acquiring a new customer is always much more expensive than keeping an
Yes.
existing one. So that's
Yes.
a clear knowledge. And this discrepancy between that, right? So on the one hand, it's much more expensive, and you know already it's much more expensive to acquire new customers, and the fact of the effort and the team sizes and the budgets and the tools and everything invested into either one of those, it was pretty clear that there was a kind of a mismatch in between those two things. And that made me then look into this retention topic, let's say.
Okay.
And I wasn't even aware that it was called customer success myself back then. So this was just like when I started to dig into this, then I realized there is already a bit of a, there was back then already a bit of a small product world there. But what the thing that was missing in the sense of the product was a affordable, easy to use, fast to get started, and especially modern UI UX experience. It was just not there. It didn't exist on the market. So there was, of course, Gainsight, which is the definitely the market leader in this space, even up until now. But this is a product that is extremely expensive and takes a long time to set up, which is great for some enterprise companies that
Yes.
want a lot of things. But what about all the SMBs? What about all the growing SaaS companies out there? Probably your audience. So
Yes. Yes.
who will they use? And this kind of is the story of starting Custify, and yeah, has been an interesting journey, and now we are a team of more than 20 already, and international team, which is working from Australia, from UK, from US, from Europe, from Romania, from Portugal recently. The latest hire is from Portugal. We have some in Croatia, so it's became an international team, which is really exciting.
Very lovely story, and I'm very happy for you. Have you raised any funds?
No, we haven't raised any funds.
So you are bootstrapped. Nice.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. And what did you say is your end vision? So how do you view the end goal or?
Well, we for the company, you mean for
Yeah.
Custify?
Yeah.
I mean, I have troubles like painting the end vision there. This sounds also very, very dramatic, but I'm trying to think in the vision for the next couple of years. That's I think something that we all can also fit better into our brains, as in explaining where we want to go. And we are and we want to remain the go-to solution for the SaaS companies that are growing, scaling up, somewhere kind of in the found product market fit, but don't want to spend a ton of money on an extremely expensive enterprise tool, but still want to practice customer success. Of course, we want to remain there as the market leader for that segment, develop our product further. This is what we anyway constantly do. Work a lot with our customers. It's always very interesting to learn about new use cases, and this is how our product grew. We are not sitting in a tower somewhere and thinking of the next possible features. It's actually our customers telling us about those things. So it's always exciting to work with CS teams, understanding
Yes.
their processes, understanding new needs, and the market. Sales and marketing compared to customer success are definitely extremely more mature markets. So customer success compared to those is still a pretty young function in the industry. And given that nature, there's also a lot of movement, a lot of new things, a lot of new initiatives, a lot of new ideas, a lot of things that come up. And yeah, that's the vision, to make those teams even in the future, equip them with exactly the right set of tools so they can do their job best possible.
And I'd like to hear your backstory before starting Custify.
My backstory before
Yeah.
starting Custify. So I was in a very different industry, and I was actually working in IT security. I was in software, but not in customer success. So I worked 20 years in IT security.
Are you technical?
Um, yes, technical position. I was leading in the end a team of more than 100 researchers, developers, product managers, designers,
Wow.
but on the technical side of the business. That's correct. Um, and yeah, I started as a coder, and even more than a coder, kind of a reverse coder. So in the security industry, there's something called a reverse engineer, which basically looks at particular malware and understands what this malware is doing. So that's what I did when I was 16, or that's how I started to become
Okay.
uh, more
Wow.
interested in the software and IT world.
Wow. Okay. And do you have any piece of advice for founders?
Piece of advice for founders: connect you with other founders. I guess is my main advice, because as a founder, you go through challenges that those are very hard to understand for people who are not in the same shoes. So these challenges that you face there, the decisions that you have to make, the sleepless nights that you have, this is something that only other founders can understand. And if you connect yourself with other founders, you will see, actually many people have the same challenges, and you can just, even that helps you already. But of course, you can benefit from yeah, things they already solved, and you don't need to solve that again. And they have good advices for you, like how they went through those kind of phases or how they solved those challenges. So I guess this is one of the advices that also helped me to have a good founder network with founders eventually that are a bit more ahead of you, but not too far ahead, so that they
Yeah.
still remember how it was back then when you had 20 employees, not like when they have 2,000 employees already.
Okay. Okay. And one last question. What's your favorite software?
Custify, of course.
And
And
apart
I'm
from
not kidding.
Custify?
No, I'm not kidding. I wouldn't know how to run the company. We are a SaaS company ourselves. I wouldn't know how to run the company without Custify. Besides
You
that,
use Custify internally? You
yeah,
use...
absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Of course, our
Okay.
CS team
Wow.
using of course Custify. I use myself Custify every day for at least an hour, because understanding customer health, understanding who is coming up for renewal, that's also something I'm still particularly interested in.
Wow.
Besides that, I would say recently the recent acquisition of Figma. So Figma is a tool that I personally, as a product person, also a former product person, but still involved a bit in product development and product design, that I really admire, because they managed to to enable the design into a SaaS business, into a cloud, where everybody said, as technically this will be too slow. Technically, it's never possible to replace Photoshop with a tool like this. Well, we use it from day one, and I'm a happy user for that, and it just enables you to do so much things so much quicker, easy to share with the developers. The point between design and front end development is just so much easier. So that's a tool that I really also use almost daily.
Super. Thank you so much for being here, and I wish you all the best with Custify. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christian, for having me.